Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan for a very fun Inside the Birds series, a little two-part series we're about to do here. The news cycle is a little slow as far as right now we're getting ready for the draft, and we have so much draft content out on the Inside the Birds platform between Greg Cosell's breakdowns, Sam Finkel's analytics breakdowns, Andrew DeCecco dailies, and of course Adam and I when we get in until we do stuff on that as well. But right now we're in the heart, kind of in the middle, Adam, of where guys are taking a lot of visits. So teams are really using this time as their last, I guess, tool, as they say, in the toolbox to really figure out, to kind of get inside one more time the brains, maybe have a private workout of a prospect as they finish off, evaluating these guys and get ready for the draft, which feels around the corner, but yet, it's April 9th, so it's still a good, 2 weeks away.
13 days.
Yeah, 13 days. So a lot of time. So what we're going to do is Adam and I think we did this last year in a former fashion, but we're making it better even this year. We're going to do our NFL power rankings right now. And what we decided we were going to do is we're first going to go through, we're not going to go through all 32, but we are going to rank the 5 worst teams in the NFL right now. That is the key. This is if everybody had to play a game right now. Yes, we'll assume some guys who were hurt last year might be healthy now, but the 53-man rosters of each team right now, how do they look? And then later, Adam, after the draft, we'll probably do another one to see where the changes are. There'll probably be another round of late free agency. We know the Eagles always get involved with that. Going into the season, we'll obviously do another one too. But we're looking at the NFL landscape right now. So there's 2 rules to this thing, right? One, again, right now, it's 53. We'll do the bottom 5, and then we're going to do the top 14 teams. Why 14? Well, because 7 make the playoffs from each conference. So we figured, Adam, his idea, figured let's do the top 14. That doesn't mean we have to take 7 AFC teams and 7 NFC teams. It's still a power rankings. So if the top 14 teams all played in the AFC, we would rank that as such and leave the NFC out. Obviously, that's not the case, but I don't want people saying, yeah, you said the playoff teams, 14 teams, but you have an uneven amount. It might be uneven. That's fine. We're doing power rankings. So we're going to go through that. And really, it's a lot of intel based too, Adam, because you and I know this. When we start to talk to teams about prospects, invariably, right, we also sort of get into their team and other teams, and it's like we get caught up in so many side conversations about what that team is doing, what they think of this team and their neighboring, rival or a different conference. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because the thing that clubs love to do, they love to talk about the other teams because they need to. They want to know what you know, and I ask them, hey, well, how do you see this team? What do you see their strengths and weaknesses? There's a lot from coaches and front office executives when they take a look around the league. And by the way, they absolutely do mock drafts. They do their own. It's pretty interesting. So that's coming. But yeah, what's funny is to your point, before we get started here, I happen to have it. I have no idea. I haven't seen your ranks. I have no idea what they look like. I just happen to have it 7 and 7. I didn't try to, like you said. I could have had 9 teams from the NFC and 5 from the AFC, but it just didn't work out like that. It's funny. There was one team I missed on last year. There's one team I completely missed on, and I should have taken the value of coaching. So I didn't think the roster is very good. The Chargers. I'm just going to mention this.
Okay.
I completely missed on them last year. I looked at that roster. I know Justin Herbert's talented, but he's sort of been an underachiever. He should be better than he is. He's a little bit overrated, though he's very talented. I think part of it's what they've had around him. Their offensive line also. They've addressed their offensive line. I think they've got a running back now that fits their physicality, which is what they want.
Right.
With Najee Harris. But, overall, I think the value of coaching, we saw it obviously last year with the Eagles. My God. I mean, it's one of the best coaching jobs I've ever seen.
I think the Vikings were my team that I missed on
another one
year.
Yeah,
I mean, we all missed on the Commanders, but that's obvious, right? Now, who knew the Commanders were going to be that good?
Right.
We didn't know that. But for teams where you were like I had the Chargers as I think my 7th seed.
I totally missed on that one. As a matter of fact, Scott Farrell and I were on Sports Grid. Scott's the host, and I do his show now every Thursday. He and I, we were doing the over-under totals to start the season. I'm like, they're not getting 8. And I was shocked that it was 8. I'm like, wow. Vegas thinks the 8. I like the under. I was like, they're not getting and I was wrong on that one. But
Didn't they
again,
start off
you
with 6-2 also? I mean, they almost had 8 pretty quickly, if I remember correctly.
yeah, they listen. That was a great coaching job. Greg Roman's a really good OC for what Jim wants.
Mhm.
Jesse Minter, how about his dad Rick is one of his coaches, senior
How about
defensive
that?
assistant. That's a really cool story.
Yep.
But again, coaching matters, man. You could be a lot better than you think. And then with Commanders, you're right. That was one that nobody saw. Obviously, the quarterback is the main reason, but also when you bring a calmness and Dan Quinn after Ron Rivera I think it was kind of the end for Ron as a head coach. That he obviously had his run with the Panthers. He was given way too much responsibility. He had to deal with Dan Snyder. That was very difficult. And Ron had personnel control, which was a total mistake. And
Yep.
Ron was a competent head coach. I mean, he was a pretty solid head coach for many years, but he was given way too much. And I give Adam Peters credit and his staff, and obviously Dan Quinn and Josh Harris. By the way, Josh Harris looks like he's got a chance to be a good owner, but it starts with the quarterback. I mean, when you get the quarterback right, or at least you saw what Stroud did 2 years ago.
Mhm.
When you get ahead of it, when you get your quarterback right, Stroud dropped off. It wasn't like he was bad; he just wasn't as good. But they had terrible offensive line problems. And by the way, if you look, we'll get to the Texans later, but I do want to mention this. I don't know what the hell they're doing their offensive line. They completely changed it up, and it doesn't even look as good.
I tell you what, as we get to when we do the power rankings, whether they appear in our part 1 or part 2, people will have to find out. But yeah, they were a team that I really struggled with because of how their year went last year. Because they had such high expectations going into the season last year, made some really good moves to bring in Diggs, and you just thought things were going to go a lot differently for them, and it didn't. All right, so good. I'm excited to start this up. A reminder that we continue to grind out our Ask Greg Cosell shows, where he goes through. I'm sorry, not our Intel with Greg Cosell shows on the mainstream platform. We have turned the page to offense, so a lot of offensive shows coming out where he does quarterbacks, tight ends, running backs, receivers, and offensive linemen, all coming your way within the next coming days and weeks. And then of course Sam Finkel continues to do a great job doing the same thing, but from an analytics standpoint, going through all these draft prospects, seeing how they measure up to past classes as far as first-round picks, top 100 picks, and all players drafted. So a lot of draft preview content between them. And, of course, Andrew's work, the Daily DeCecco, and he still does some stuff on InsideTheBirds.com that's worth checking out. But the DeCecco Daily, really chock full of draft information. And, yes, we are doing Ask Greg Cosell, but you have to be a Patreon member to talk directly to Greg each week. And we had an unbelievable one Tuesday night. The questions from our Patreon members were fantastic, and they really gave Greg a few that's good. He had to think about it.
Yeah. He it's interesting. This was, I mean, listen, if you're a Patreon member, you're not only a serious Eagles fan, you really love football. The thoughtfulness of the questions, I was just like, wow. And they take it over. For those of you who are not on Patreon, the tier 3 people with Greg, they take it over. It's their run. I mean, we just team. Okay, who's next? Who's next? Who's next? And they just ask, and they get to follow up, and Greg just converses with them. It's phenomenal. So we love that. Oh, by the way, just a disclaimer for the Intel with Greg Cosell shows. It's for everybody. We're not doing 30 players per position. We're not doing 3 hours per show. Some people are complaining. How come you didn't talk about this guy? Might be a 5th rounder. He's a real sleeper. Folks, we don't have that kind of time. We don't have Greg for 3 hours per show. So just relax a little bit. Like last year, we begged Greg to go watch Alex Hunt because we were told, we were right, that he was going to go in the 3rd round. We had no idea he was going to draft him. We had no idea the Eagles were going to draft him. But we got a pretty good tip that we need to be on him a little bit because we weren't, or I knew who he was. He was at the Senior Bowl. I knew he was a sleeper, but I was like, 3rd round, really? Okay. And then we had such a good source on him. I'm like, all right, we're going to go with this. So I called Greg. I said, hey, have you seen him? He goes, no, he's not in our system. Do I need to see him? I'm like, yes, you need to see him. Please do it, if you can. And then he called me. He goes, hey, I saw him. He goes, wow. Because was it Houston Christian? Is that the school?
Yes. Houston Christian.
Right. So Greg loves getting the background and goes, wow, this kid was a safety at Cornell. I go, yeah, he had a growth spurt at 19. Interesting player. And then, as we went along the season, Greg kept telling me and Geoff, when we talked to him, how great the tape was. He's like, wow. And then at the end of the season, we asked him, what do you think starting next year? He goes, you know what? He's got everything. He's just, it helps that he wants to be great. Like he's a sponge. He's a willing learner, very smart. But, you you don't want to put too much on them. And that brings us to the draft, and we'll be talking more draft after this show. With the Eagles specifically, they clearly are light at edge rush for the future, not for this year so much. They could get away with it if they don't draft one. But the draft is about the future, so they're going to need to add. They really need to add another developmental guy, but it's going to be fascinating to see what they do because, as we know, other than guys like Barkley, who you get lucky with sometimes, you could sign a guy for more than 1 year who you know is going to be here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Free agency is mostly about immediate needs. The draft is about future needs. And I'm fascinated to see what the Eagles do if they make a pick in the first round, if they don't trade out.
Yeah, me too. To your point, I think it's not foolproof, but you can tell that a player wants to be great, typically, especially if they're not a first rounder, if they perform well on special teams. And before Jalix Hunt got into the defensive rotation, he was playing, I think, almost all the special teams units. And he and Ben Van Sumer and Andrew wrote about this a lot, had this competition of who was going to get there, make the first hit. I mean, they were really
two freaks, by the way.
Yeah. And they were loving it. And when a player has that burning desire to excel on special teams and they have talent like he has, usually they're going to make it. So that was always a good sign.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I got to tell you, if Van Sumer didn't tear his ACL or whatever it was, I'm not sure if it's an ACL. It was he had major knee surgery, okay? So that kept him out a number of months. And now he's moving to fullback, at least for now. It's too bad. I got to tell you, had he not gotten hurt, and we'll never know this because we only tape we know, he played great 2 years ago against the Giants, damn the 23 season. That one game he played well, but had he not gotten hurt with his athletic ability and being that they're so light at inside backer, he clearly would have played into that, competing for, depending on when Dean comes back. And obviously, Dean's not going to be ready for week one, barring a miracle. Before the draft right now, as we move forward, it's too bad. He could have been in the mix to start versus Trotter, but now obviously that's a moot point because he's going to be moving to fullback.
True.
Too bad.
True. Hey, no one says they can't move him back after they evaluate.
True. Well, and the other thing is I have this theory that part of it, and we know Greg Cosell told us that he had heard that Van Sumert's got great hands, so that we get it. The Van Sumert's a pretty good athlete, but he's more of the build of today's linebacker, Mike linebacker, not real big physically, athletic, can move. He can move. He can go forward. He can go back. He can cover a little bit. But we'll see. I'm interested to see at OTAs, which by the way start before the draft now. In the last 7 or 8 years, they've moved. You're allowed to have, although these OTA practices, if you want to call them that, before the draft, there's absolutely no coaching. They cannot do anything. They're just basically, they're in shorts and t-shirts. They run a couple routes. They do. It's really very little, but you can see if the guy can move at all. Come back from a major knee injury.
Right.
So,
all right, good stuff there. Let us get into our power rankings now. As I mentioned, we're going to start this off. We're not going to go through all 32, but we will give you our bottom 5. And I got to tell you, right off the bat, I am somewhat stunned by a couple of your bottom 5 compared to mine. So let's get it out right out of the way. At 32, you have the Raiders. You have the Raiders as the worst team in football.
Here's why. Okay, I get it. Geno Smith is there. I get it. Okay, I get it. He's back with Chip Kelly, who, folks, if you don't know, I put this out 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Geno Smith was going to be the Eagles quarterback. That was Chip's guy.
Yep.
And then, if you remember now, the story was that the Eagles, it was Howie, it was Chip, it was Jeffrey Lurie. They all went to West Virginia pro day. They met with Geno before it. The meeting didn't go so great, and that was that. So they moved off of Geno. But it's just kind of funny. Turn the page 12 years later, and that they're back together. Yeah. It's crazy. So here's my problem, okay? Again, we're before the draft.
Correct.
They're extremely late at running back. Chip Kelly, it's coming. The run. Pete Carroll's the head coach. That's why Chip Kelly's getting paid $6 million a year. Yes, highest paid coordinator in the NFL. They're going to run the hell of the football, okay? Below average offensive line. The receiver core is awful. Okay. Again, it's before the draft.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
They don't have a 1. Jacoby Myers would be a better 3. Trey Tucker could run, but he was miscast as a starting receiver because they ran out of receivers last season. Offensive line's got some issues on the interior. They got to get through that. They have very little depth. They got one good pass rusher, and Crosby's a stud. Malcolm Kuntz really didn't play last season. He had a major knee injury, although he was really good 2 years ago. Tyree Wilson hasn't done it through 2 seasons. They're not very good at corner. They got a lot of it's a bad roster. I mean, John Spytek's got a job on his hands. But again, folks, for Raider fans who love to skewer me on Twitter, which I've had my issues with Raider fans. We've had a love-hate relationship over the years. It's before the draft. Relax. Let's see what happens in the draft. But they do not have a very good roster.
Okay, that is fair. They don't. I didn't.
Brock Bowers is a stud. I'm not. He's great. I got that.
Yeah.
But.
Look. I'm going. My route is, and we both can agree on this at least. Coaching matters, quarterback play matters, and they can compensate for some of your deficiencies. The Raiders are a bad team, but they're not. But you know that they're going to try to run the ball. They've got Mostert now. Sincere McCormick. It's not a great running game. Zamir White. I agree.
Bad, man. Mostert looked like he was
Mostert, you just never know. He'll be hurt by week 2. But Geno Smith is so much more of a. I like Geno Smith. I don't think he's top 5, but I've always liked Geno Smith since he's been with Seattle and reinvented himself. They will run the ball. They've got Brock Bowers on defense. They to me just have more players I like than the Titans, Browns, and I mean they've got Max Crosby, who's arguably the best.
Wilkins is good, who I mentioned. Yeah,
Wilkins is a good player. They brought in Landon Roberts, and Jeremy Chin, not great players, but steadier. Their secondary stinks. There's nothing you can say about that. So again, yes, not a good team, but if they had to play the Titans today, and they've got what
a slugfest that'll be.
Right. Well, I know it'd be awful, but they've got Geno, they've got Pete. Right, and you're looking at a Titans team that I'm still not sold on Brian Callahan. I don't know if he's going to be a good coach or not.
I hear you, man. I don't disagree. I kind of like the Titans. It's funny. God, we're really slumming Titans versus the Raiders, but the Titans are going to draft my guy Cam Ward. I felt that since January. I know Calvin Ridley's a player, man. He just could not get the football. By the way, now we'll see about Dan Moore. Okay, you brought up the Titans as we move along. So wait a minute. Do you have? I have the Raiders last. Who do you have last?
I had the Titans last.
Okay, but here's the thing, though. Dan Moore. Now I know that paying him $20.5 million a season is crazy. Dan Moore played great for the.
He is an upgrade though for what they had. He's not a bad player. I agree with you.
Yep. Skronsky, Christian Barry was hurt last season. Zeitler's got a little bit left in. Latham was miscast. See, I was told they were going to draft they wanted him so badly. The Chargers got him. So they played Latham out of position at left tackle. That was a disaster. They're putting it right. So, I don't agree with you. They got a better roster.
Okay, right. But that's where the quarterback and the coach thing to me come into play because Will Levis, I don't think his issues were he didn't have enough time, even though their offensive line wasn't great. I think he's just a turnover waiting to happen.
Yeah,
so,
he's not very good.
And if one thing you could say about Geno, very, very accurate. Does not make nearly as many mistakes as Will Levis. So
right, we're doing this before the draft. So they don't have Cam Ward yet. So as is, they don't have him. Now defensively, the Titans they don't have, not that anyone has Max Crosby. No, I love Tavondre Sweat and Simmons are going to be good. Draymond Jones, what the hell happened to him? God, what a disaster. Seattle,
Yes. Yeah.
That was bad. Right. Arden Key, why has he been on so many teams? L'Jarius Sneed barely played last season.
Yeah.
It's pretty close. See, I got the Raiders a little better, but
it's funny because I have what you have the Raiders as a little worse. You mean at 32? You have them as the worst.
I mean, yeah. I'm sorry. I have the Titans a little better.
My bottom 5. They're right outside it, but so let's finish out your bottom 5 first. You have the Raiders.
All right, I'll do mine. Okay. So I have the Raiders at 32, Titans at 31. Panthers roster is still not very good, but I was encouraged with Bryce Young. They're bringing back the coaching staff. They've had a nice offseason. It's not – I give Dan Morgan credit in that he's not trying to build his team through free agency. They got Jalen Coker, came out of nowhere. What a great story as an undrafted free agent. They continue to address the offensive line. It's not great. Chuba Hubbard turned out to be a stud. Well, boy, that was surprising. Rico Dowdle now is going to be cast as a backup, which he should have been. That was bad by Dallas last season. They're getting Derek Brown back. They're not great at corner. G.J. Wanham was hurt last season. He's got a chance to be a nice player. Clowney could still play. They brought him now. Trishon Wharton, I know he had a great season for the Chiefs out of nowhere. The contract's crazy that he got. They give them credit. I mean, he's an interior defensive lineman. They're a little better than the Titans because I'm betting on that Bryce Young in year 3 and year 2 with Dave Canales will be better. And that's why I have them there at 30.
Mm-hmm.
And now see, okay, the Giants, Russell Wilson, he looked terrible to end the season with the Steelers. Arthur Smith wanted to bench him. He was told no. But you know what? You look at that receiver core,
mm-hmm.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I know the offensive line's got some problems. Can Andrew Thomas ever stay healthy for a change? Tyron Tracy was I don't know if Tyron Tracy's a starting running back. He's pretty good for 5, 6, 7 games. They got to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Secondary before the draft, they added Paulson Adebo, Javon Holland. They've improved their secondary. Lawrence is a stud. Brian Burns in another year there will be good. Thibodeau has gotten better. They don't have a lot of depth on their team. You could make an argument that I have them too low, then maybe they should be a little bit higher. But I just don't believe in Russell Wilson. He's kind of lost it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one.
It's horrific to end the season. Now, believe this or not, and coaching matters. At 28, I got the Patriots over the Giants. First of all, I'm going to stand up for the quarterback. That kid, Drake May, took so much bleep before the draft. He's super raw. I get it. Undisciplined. I know a lot of people criticize Drake May. As someone for the Patriots told me, who's sort of new to their football team, if you isolate all his throws, you go, wow, there's something to work with here. He's a pretty good kid. He wants to be great. Their offensive line is sort of makeshift. Cole Strange came off of knee surgery, I'm told, last year. That's why it wasn't great for him. Oweno's back at right tackle or guard. Morgan Moses will be the right tackle. He's got something left. Left tackle's a disaster. They got to figure that out.
Yep.
Stephon Diggs, really, here's the thing, folks. If you haven't seen the contract, I have the breakdown. It's a 1-year deal. Okay? That's what it is. It's a really nice 1-year deal. He'll make it like a minimum of $12 million. If he plays every game, he'll make over $15 million this season. There's very little guaranteed money in year 2. His base salary in year 2 is over $20 million. He's not going to see that. They would have to redo it.
Right.
But I don't know what he has left coming off an ACL. They're not going to until training camp. They still have work to do at the receiver position. Defensively, got to get Barmore back. Hopefully he's okay. Harold Landry got cut by the Titans. I know he's back with Vrabel. I get that. Robert Spillane, very underrated. Carlton Davis with Christian Gonzalez, with Kyle Duggar's back. Keon White's a very underrated player. Edge rusher, 99. Christian Ellis, Eagles never should have cut him. Did you see? He got a nice deal in free agency as a restricted free agent.
Yeah.
And the Patriots matched it. So there's talent here. I mean, why do I have him up there? And I like Ramondre Stevenson, running back, because the quarterback's got something there. And I'm Josh McDaniels, for all the criticism he gets. I know people will argue he hasn't really developed a young quarterback. That's fine. There's truth to that. I believe Josh will get the job done here. And I like them. I'm a little bit higher on this team than probably most people.
I think I'm with you on that. In fact, I didn't have the Patriots in my bottom 5. I had them right there,
really?
Like at 26.
Okay.
But I took into account they brought in Milton Williams. They brought in
how could I forget him? Duh. Yeah,
right. They brought in the cornerback. Mike Vrabel is a proven coach. He may not be the greatest coach, but he's proven. He's been to an AFC championship. He's produced a lot of playoff teams. Christian Barmore will come back. I did like what I saw out of Drake May. You're right. Other than Ramondre, they have nothing on wide receiver, so they have to run the ball. But they add, I think Gonzalez, the cornerback, is one of the best.
He's really good
in the game.
Yep.
So defensively, they look like they can line up and play and give you some issues right now. And offensively, you're just going to have to run and get as much as you can out of Drake May. But because of that coach and quarterback combination, I like them more than the teams I'm about to get into. So I already told you I had the Titans at 32. I have the Browns at 31. I think that I was looking at how many players I have that I think are game changers on their 53. And I came up with Myles Garrett, Joker, Njoku, and Ward when he's healthy. And after that, I was just very unimpressed.
Judy did well. I'll say this. Judy did well.
I can't call him a game. He's a game changer.
No, he's not. I know.
A couple of weeks of the year. He's
You're right.
nothing.
The Chief at tight end's good, and Joker's a really good player. He
Yeah.
really grown up. I know there's just absolute disaster quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett is a stud. Malik Collins, that was a good. I like that signing. JOK is good.
Yep.
Denzel Ward, when healthy, is really good. I like their secondary. Their safety.
Yeah, I do like their safeties. Their secondary is really the only thing I found sort of other than Myles Garrett.
Yeah, their line. Conklin's had a number of knee injuries. Batonu's still stud. They need to figure out left tackle. Posick is okay at center.
Right.
White Teller's a good player when healthy. He's had some injuries. Judy
did well. If you don't have a left tackle and you don't have a quarterback,
I know.
I'm probably not going to put you anywhere near outside my top 5. So that's why
I hear you. You've convinced me that I probably need to relook at it. But who the hell cares about the bottom 5? I can't believe we've done this in depth. But no, it's a good. It shows you though. It shows you if we go through these teams, there's a lot of upside. Like the Patriots have a ton of upside. The Giants have a ton of upside. Okay,
right.
But there's.
Go ahead.
There's a cut that, but the bottom line is all 5 rosters are bad. On my bottom 5, they all have issues, major issues.
You and I were close on the Giants. You had them at 29. I have them at 30, and I really took into account the fact that they just don't have a quarterback right now. They do have probably more game-changing talent than the Jags, who I have at 29, and the Panthers at 28. But at least the Jags have Trevor Lawrence, and we'll see if their new coach can do something. The Giants could be one of those teams, Adam, if they went and made like some weird trade for like Kirk Cousins tomorrow. I don't love Kirk Cousins, but I would say, they'll be outside they won't be great, but they'll be in like the 22, 24, 27. But right now with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston and that offensive line, not knowing how Andrew's going to come back and the struggles that they've had everywhere else, they're 30. Jags are 29. To me, they just lack a lot of game-changing players. I like their edges, of course. Hines Allen.
No, Jameis. By the way, Jameis is with the Giants. Did you say that he was with the Browns?
I said Jameis. Yeah, I said Russell and Jameis as Giants.
Oh, I didn't hear him. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, the Jags. I just, outside of BTJ and their edges, I just think they're hurting. But they will get Trevor Lawrence back, and
they have a quarterback.
Cohen can do something for them. But I just don't have a whole lot of faith. And then I had the Panthers at 28. I considered the Saints here. But I do feel, I feel like
they're so mediocre.
They are. But I gave the Saints a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt. They have a little bit better line play. They got some better D line and O line than the Panthers. But clearly the Panthers have a higher upside because of Bryce Young, whereas the Saints have Derek Carr. But for now, if we're just talking about lining up today, I think the Panthers are a little bit worse than the Saints. But it could be a coin flip. So those are my bottom 5: Titans, Browns, Giants, Jags, Panthers.
Yeah, I did totally disagree with the Jaguars because Brian Thomas is a stud.
Yeah, but that's just one guy.
No, hang on.
Okay. Is Malik Davis?
What's that? No, Gabe Davis was hurt last year. He's back. Their offensive line's not terrible. Okay, it's patchwork, but it's not bad. Lawrence is back. He's healthy. They have a quarterback. Okay, we can debate how good he is. He's been a disappointment recently. No question. He's been hurt a lot. Bigsby and Etienne okay at running back. Walker, Hines Allen, who got his big deal. Aluakin, who's a good player. Devin Lloyd, I know, has been disappointing. Yeah. Darnell Savage is back at safety. He's not nickel.
That was a swing for me. I thought the linebackers, who I expected to be a lot better, like Olukin's good, but not great. And Lloyd has been a disappointment.
He's been disappointing, yeah. Now, see, the problem is they played Savage at nickel last year. He's back at safety. Tyson Campbell was hurt almost the entire season. Jordan Lewis is a good nickel. This is a bottom 10 roster, no doubt. And Armstead's up there. They probably reached for Mason Smith, who was a D tackle at a second rounder last year. We'll see how good he is. But Chad Muma's been a nice story at times. They don't blow my bottom 5. They got Johnny Muncake there. I love that.
Johnny Muncake.
That's what I've called that forever. Brenton Strange was a major reach from your school, Penn State.
Yeah, he might be a decent player, though. Let's see, because he came on at the end of last year.
I know one of the former coaches told me that they, like, when they inherited him, they're like, oh, boy, this is a reach. But he had some really good practices where, like, they opened some eyes. But they just don't have anybody. They have Hunter Long and Johnny Muncake are wide tight ends, so he's the move tight end. They got to get him the football.
Well, I also took into account first-year head coach. Liam Cohen did a great job, but we have no idea how he'll be as a head coach. And it wasn't exactly a smooth operation the way he became head coach there, and I don't know if that's a red flag. And Grant Udinski is a first-time, I believe, play caller and defensive
Yes, he
coordinator.
is.
So I factored that in. Remember, I said coaching and QB play are going to matter to me in these rankings. So there's a big uncertainty there.
All right. So as we go along here, just so you know, the rankings are based on number one player, talent, and performance, coaching. And the other thing is, as we get there, this is where it really becomes important. I call it front office competency. How good are they? Can you get them the players? Do you understand what the draft really is? Are you desperate? Are you drafting for this year because you want to save your job? If you're doing that, you're not in my top 14. You have no chance to be, because I don't respect front offices that do that. I've learned this the hard way. It's always, always, always about the future with an eye on this year. You're drafting for the future. Always understand that. Free agency, for the most part, not always, but for the most part, is about now. Every once in a while, you get a guy like Saquon Barkley. There aren't very many situations like that where you can get a starter for the next 3 to 4 years. It doesn't happen much. What's comical is you think you are, and then you cut the guy after 2 years because you make a mistake. I'm not mentioning Barkley. I'm mentioning other players. Understand the draft is about the future for the most part. Yep. And I've seen it for 27 years. These GMs are trying to save their job. They're drafting for need, and they get fired because they're so desperate. Like, we're going to draft every need we have, and that doesn't work that way. As John Lynch told me, he showed me, it's in his office, the GM of the Niners. Kyle Shanahan came up with this. You cannot solve every problem in one offseason. You just can't. It's just not the way you win in the National Football League.
He is 100% right. And for his sake, I hope his this draft is a lot better than his last 3, because the Niners have really struggled.
Fallen off a little bit. Yeah.
In fact, half of their 3rd and 4th round picks are on the Eagles practice squad right now.
Yeah, what are these damn running backs? What is going on?
All right. Yeah. So we'll get into our top 14 now. This is going to be really fun. I can just tell by looking at your list and my list, we're a lot more lockstep here. I mean, couple.
Oh, you've seen mine, but I haven't seen yours, so I don't know yours.
I know that's the fun part of this.
All right, cool.
But we're more lockstep here than maybe the bottom 5. Before we do that, you got to hear a great word from our friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter makes sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, you got to get yourself down to Sky Motor Cars. I mean, if you want a great car shopping experience, you go to Sky Motor Cars or you visit them at SkyMotorCars.com. Either way, you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you, you'll get a great deal. If you want the normal car buying experience, which is, no inventory, dealing with people who tell you, oh, well, we don't have that car, but you can go home and take 3 hours to customize it online. If you want that, you just go somewhere else. If you want an easy, nice, a lot of inventory, great customer service, great guidance, even if you don't wind up getting in the car with it, you'll get the all-around great experience at Sky Motor Cars. Brett Schulter and his staff do an unbelievable job. They're out there in Westchester, PA. Go visit them and tell them Adam and Geoff sent you, and then tell us how much fun you had. We want the responses. We want the feedback. Tell us how great of an experience it is. I guarantee you won't wait to be able to type off an email. Say, thanks, Adam. Thanks, Geoff. You told me about the best car shopping experience out there at Sky Motor Cars. All right, let's get ready. So we're starting off with our 14 all the way down to 1. We'll finish it off, obviously, in the next part. But 14, Adam, you have the who at 14?
All right, so this team's fascinating because my man Carl Pickens, a former Bengal, he lived it. When they wouldn't spend money, we did a show with Carl last month, which I love doing. I love meeting Carl. A great receiver for the Bengals. The young people don't remember him, but us old heads like you and I and some of the people listening remember Carl. And you can find it on our platforms, YouTube or Pod. But when he was there, they just weren't spending money. They'd poor scouting department, but they've improved their scouting department. They draft fairly well. They did keep. I got to give their front office credit. Duke Tobin said it, who's their personnel director, who's their de facto general manager. He said they're going to keep chasing Higgins. They did. They brought Mike Gesicki back, who had a nice season. I know their offensive line's still a problem. That's not why. It's why they don't have him higher. but they got the quarterback. I love Chase Brown. I wish they had someone better than Zach Moss, but they have what they have, and maybe they'll address that. They could certainly use another running back. Now, here's the big reason why. Lou Anarumo kind of lost it last season. He got fired. There were times where they were not competitive. It just he always did. He'd done a really good job until last season. He kind of lost it. He's now with the Colts, but they brought in, and look, it couldn't be any worse. And we'll see with Al Golden, who's former Temple head coach, has been in college a number of years. Guy's a really smart guy, and it's got to be up. It's got to be better, right? They're going to have to find a way to keep Trey Henderson. He's still on the team. I know they don't want to train him, as I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So look, I'm a little shaky on the offensive line, more than a little shaky. Certain issues, they got to get a better pass rush. We fully expect. Miles Murphy's been a major disappointment as an edge rusher. He's now in his third year, but with that quarterback, those skill position players, they're going to outscore teams. So they're my number 14 team, the Bengals.
All right, 14 for you is the Bengals. Well, I actually had the Bengals at 14, changed it at the last second. I was wrestling back. No, not even during the podcast. I just mean before we started.
Yeah.
Man, I really wanted to figure out a way to get the Bengals higher because they brought everybody back on offense, figured it out, and they still have Trey Hendrickson. But their defense was bad last year. Terrible. They added Oren Burks. That can help, but it's not. I mean, he's not a game changer.
He's really not a starter.
Right. So what I did was I have the 49ers 14th. I would ordinarily have had them higher, and I think you and I are actually higher on the 49ers than most because I've heard a lot of people think that the 49ers are going to stink, but they have a ton of talent. They still have a great coaching staff, and they got Robert Saleh back as their DC. Christian McCaffrey, Ayuk, Kittle, Juwan Jennings really stepped for them. He's a good player, Pearsall. And then they still have Bosa. But overall, defensively, they're just not that good. So I was trying to weigh them versus the Bengals, and
it's close.
Bengals ahead of them just because of the great offensive firepower that the Bengals have. So 14 for me was the Niners, 14 for you was the Bengals, 13 for me was the Bengals, and then 13 for you is
my number 13, the Buccaneers. They're in the playoffs seemingly every year under Todd Bowles.
Yep.
They have yet another. It's just crazy how they keep changing coordinators. It's kind of like if you're a coordinator there, you get a head coaching job. But Josh Grizzard is really young.
Yeah.
But look, when you look at their offense, they're loaded. Bucky Irving. Wow. What? And Sean Tucker, by the way, he had that one huge game last season.
Mm-hmm.
So they're good at running back. The offensive line's fine. They'll be a little bit. They know they have to be a little bit better in the interior. They expect to be. Evans is still there, Hall of Famer. Chris Godwin's come back from another injury. You got to see how he does. He got his contract done. Jalen McMillan, I know they're very high on him. Love Kate Otten, good, very underrated tight end. Baker Mayfield shocked me how good he's become. Wow. Son Reddick, by the way, is their big free agent move. Jason Light does not get involved in free agency very much anymore. He's built through the draft. The one issue why I don't have them higher, their pass rush has got to be better, and they've got to be better corner.
Mm-hmm.
They're not good enough there. They're just not. They have to address this in the draft, but again, their offense has a chance to be spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Grizzard's got to prove himself. Jason's a competent GM, does a good job. Vita Vea's a stud. Cansey's got to stay healthy with that calf problem that he's had, but he's talented. Winfield's back from his injury. He's a stud. Jamel Dean was hurt last season. Again, they have to be better corner. That's why they're not higher, but they're number 13. I mean, they're going to be good, but this is before the draft. Now, if Jason Light drafts two edge rushers or gets a stud edge rusher, probably in my top 10.
Fair enough. Fair. And by the way, they made a nice little sneaky addition on that defense, adding Hassan Reddick, who, remember the players, separate the controversy and the ridiculous demands and all that. If you put him in that defense and he gives you as a designated pass rusher, 15, 20 good snaps a game, which I think he can still give you.
Oh, he's getting more than that. Dude, no, he's getting way more. Wait, you kidding me? He signed for $14 million. He's getting way more.
Is that what he signed for? Okay. I thought that was an inflated number. Was that the actual number?
No, it's real. No, no, what happened was he turned, remember he wanted so much money. You were alluding to that.
Right.
He couldn't get anywhere close to what he wanted. I'll tell you exactly what he's going to make.
For some reason, I thought that was like up to 14 with all these incentives. But
No, I'll give you the real
yeah.
cash. Hang on, I'll give you the real cash in 30 seconds. No, I was right. It's 14 fully guaranteed, right on the number.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, again, he could be a pretty good addition to that defense because his style with the way that defense is and getting all the free rushers and getting guys, coming from everywhere, I could see that working out pretty well, especially on a one-year deal there.
Yeah, he's durable.
I actually,
he's
I
durable.
have the Bucs at 12.
Okay, you have okay. He's durable. He turns 31. I know it's been a disaster the last couple seasons for him, but good luck to him. No, I said at the top of this with the Bucs. I'm going to add him. That's a big one for them. Yep. Anthony Walker. I know I don't know how much he'll play, but he's a real leader. Probably be a coach when he's done playing. For Bucs fans here, if you want to know a little bit about him, but they got to get an edge rusher in a corner to move on.
Got it. All right, so I had 49ers 14, Bengals 13, Bucs 12. As I just said, you had Bengals 14, Bucs 13, and your 12 team is the only one and you're probably right on this. I really struggled with this, but go ahead and
say it. All right, so at 12, I struggled with, as you just said, I struggled with mine. I debated. I got my team together, me, myself, and I. And I listen. They got the head coach. They got the play caller. They got an unbelievable defensive coordinator. Coaching matters. We've been saying it now for 8 years. They got the geriatric D tackles in there, Jonathan Allen and Harrison Phillips and Javon Hargrave.
Yeah,
it's the Vikings, if you had noticed. But look at this talent: Jefferson, Addison, Jalen Naylor did a good job last season.
Yeah.
For Viking fans, I'm going to go inside football. They signed this kid, Tim Jones, former of the Jaguars. He could flat out fly. He was an undrafted free agent, I think, years ago. Where did he go? To Southern Miss. Yes, he could run. I just remember talking to the Jaguars coaches. That's why he made the roster. He's an undrafted free agent, 21. Hockenson he's now fully over the knee injury. Remember, he came back from the ACL injury early. It's just defensively, it was Isaiah Rodgers. Isaiah Rodgers thinks he's got a good chance to start. He probably will. Now he's got to prove himself as an outside corner. Van Ginkel's a stud. Grenard's a really good player. That was a really good signing for them. They have a good football team, but here's the number one question. Is J.J. McCarthy ready? They think he's going to be, but they're not going to know until OTAs, until he starts moving around, see how he looks.
Yep.
So that's the question. Roger, I love the trade for Jordan Mason. By the way, that's because they're going to. It's you run the ball in this offense. It's really more Sean McVay-ish. You know that they're going to run the ball. It starts with the foundations of the run game.
Yep.
With Mason and Aaron Jones. It's just we don't know about the quarterback. And by the way, the offensive line's another one. Just don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I struggled so much that, Adam, I had them in the top 14, and then I eventually settled on them because of the McCarthy situation. I just couldn't put them ahead of the teams that we've talked about, the 49ers, the Bengals, the Bucs, and then we're about to get into like 11-10-9, and I just couldn't do it. But if I had to do it over, I might bump the 49ers out and put the Vikings, but I had the Vikings at 15. I literally had the Vikings as the first team on the outside looking in.
Oh, you don't have a man. Holy smokes. You know what? Honestly, well, let me ask you this. Is it because
when you have them at 12, right? So you're really like, it's not like you have them
on the fence.
Up. Yeah.
Well, hang on. Is it strictly because of McCarthy?
It was strictly because of McCarthy. Yes. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Because I'm pitting them right against the teams that I have ahead of them. The 49ers, the Bengals, the Bucs. I just felt like those teams are a little bit more, obviously more settled at the quarterbacking position. Whereas if McCarthy's not good, and plus they're playing in such a tough division, things could go south for them if he's not good, to be honest with you. I mean, they don't
have a backup. They don't have a backup right now. Brett Rippon cannot be there too. Right. I'm sorry. It's a shame because I happened to see the All-22 on that Raider game that he played in.
Mm-hmm.
McCarthy was phenomenal in that game, and I'd heard 2 weeks before that he wasn't going to start week one. Darnold was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I say barring a miracle, he just could not. There wasn't enough time for him to cut it down. He was starting to push though. It's a shame. He had the full meniscus repair, so we'll have to see. But this is otherwise. Ryan Kelly, he's starting to fade a little bit. He's going to be their center, and Will Fries. Oh my God, what a contract he got! His tier cash number's ridiculous coming over and he got hurt last year. He's going to start at right guard for them.
Yep.
But we'll see. They're going to be a fun team. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely. All right. So I like it. You had the Bengals 14, the Bucks 13, and the Vikings at 12. I had the Niners at 14, the Bengals 13, the Bucks at 12. So we come to 11, and that's where you have the 49ers landing. And Adam, that's another team I struggled with. I had them at 14. I haven't making it, but they have so much good talent, between Ayuk and Kittle and Juwan Jennings and Purdy, when protected, is a good quarterback, and he distributes the ball well. They have Bosa. So they have enough talent here to, if they had to play a game today, to be competitive. I completely, a C-Mac being healthy. I get it. I totally get it where you came from. I was a little more down on their defense, I guess, but I totally could be sold on them being 11.
Yeah, this one's interesting. This one's interesting. So you mentioned Ayuk coming off the ACL injury, so we just don't know about him. Pearsall ended the rookie season well, considering what happened to him before the season. Juwan Jennings is like the best backup receiver in the National Football League. What a player he is.
He might be their second best receiver. I mean,
I know, because who the hell knows with Ayuk? Kittle could still play. Potential Hall of Fame player, believe it or not, just because he's such a good two-way player. I know he's had a number of injuries, but they're okay in the offensive line. They're not great. I get it. They kind of overachieve. Purdy's healthy.
Yeah,
he gets knocked around a lot. McCaffrey had a disastrous season. You wonder about him. Garendo is so explosive, but he's an older, young back because he started. I think he's like 25. Let me just double check. I think he's 25.
Well, while you look at that, I'm going to tell you.
He's just 25 in June. Go ahead.
I completely buy into you, and I might, if I were doing this again, I might put him higher, because the two guys who really changed their season, who will be back next year and could be completely healthy and fine, are Trent Williams and McCaffrey. When they have those two guys, they are an incredibly difficult team to beat. I mean, Williams is so much of an upgrade because he's the best tackle in the game, or one of them right now, when he's healthy, that he makes that much of a difference. And of course, so does McCaffrey. And we're doing this under the assumption that those are their starters and their players. When those guys are healthy, the 49ers are really good and score a ton of points. So I completely can buy into them as the 11th best team right now, despite their defensive deficiencies.
Yep. Trent Williams, you do have to mention, turns 37 in August.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. When he's healthy, he plays great. I mean, until we see it.
But no, it does matter, because you don't know if he's healthy. On your point, you don't know if
that is the issue. Right.
He's had a number of injuries. We know, he had some medical issues back with Washington. Yep. I'm glad that he's better, but in terms of injuries, he gets hurt a lot. Now, defensively, you made a point earlier, which cannot be understated. Do not understate the addition of Robert Saleh. This is where he made his money. Brant Boyer, by the way, is a phenomenal special teams coach. That's a great hire, formerly of the Jets.
Good point.
So I like that. John Lynch is a competent GM. I mean, Kyle more or less has personnel control. Mm-hmm. Now, the issue for them is this. You mentioned Bosa earlier. Of course, Matos at Penn State was not a pass rusher. That was not a good signing for what they paid him. Drake Jackson's been nothing but hurt. He's not contributed. They're unbelievably light at D tackle. They cannot even line up right now. That worries me.
Yep.
Now, Fred Warner is healthy now. I know they're very high on Renardo Green, who was a second-round corner last year. I know for a fact he graded out well. Lenore has been a great story.
Yep.
So, on your point about McCaffrey, I'm going to be forward-thinking, McCaffrey. They figured this calf issue out.
Yep.
Okay. You mentioned Trent Williams. Yes. Getting Brock Purdy back. There's a lot of upside with this team, but they cannot be higher because we're doing this for the draft. They're really bad. They don't have a starting D tackle right now. They know that. Anyone who follows the Niners knows that.
Yep.
They're going to have to add an outside linebacker. D Winters is a marginal starter. They're going to have to add that there. They got out of safety. I know Richie Grant was added, but I don't know that he'll start. We'll have to see. Mm-hmm. But Kyle's back. Kyle's a great coach. I love the addition of Saleh and Brant Boyer. Again, coaching matters. Competent front office. I mean, you could debate they should be lower because they got some issues with the roster, but this is where I have them.
Yeah, that's cool. Like I said, I had them at lower. I had them a little bit lower at 14, but I could totally be sold on them at 11 as well. All right, so here we go. Your 14 is Bengals. Your 13 is Bucks. Your 12 is Vikings. Your 11 is Niners. My 14 is Niners, then Bengals, then Bucks, and my 11, another team I wrestled with. I don't love this team, but they deserve their props for what they did last year. I think they've added a little bit this offseason, is the Broncos. I have the Broncos at 11.
Ooh.
I think this is a big disconnect for us because
Mm.
I don't think you have the Broncos in your 14 at
No,
all.
you know why? Because they had an eat cake schedule last year. Cake.
They did.
And I give them credit. This is a team. We'll see. I'm doing this before the draft. I'm saying this before the draft. It wouldn't shock me if they dropped off, but we got to see what they do in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not. Look, I look at this roster and I go, I don't see it. I like the receiver core. Plus Sutton, who's really is a stud. Line's good. They're running back. They don't have a starting running back right now. Estimate's not a starter. I don't know how good Bo Nix. Bo Nix a great story. Great story.
Yeah, I don't love their offense. I clearly didn't put them at 11 because I thought they were a good offensive team. I thought they were a very good defensive team. They added Dre Greenlaw. They added Hufanga. Not great players at this stage of their careers, but say that again.
Hufanga gets hurt a lot. That's why they're not going to bring him back.
He does. But for now, lining up today, I'm assuming he's healthy. I think it's a really, really good defense. And I think the offense can at least grow because everybody's coming back. It's not like they lost guys from a bad offense. They added Ingram. We'll see. But they can contend. I feel like they can contend. Like I said, I wrestled with it. I had it lower earlier, and I even contemplated not having them in. But at the end of the day, when I was looking at the Cowboys or the Cardinals, those fringe teams, I gave the Bucks the benefit of the doubt.
You know what? I would have, if I could redo it, I would have had the Broncos in and the Bengals out. I struggle with that one because how bad the Bengals are on defense. That could be incredible on offense. Now, one guy I want to mention is Nick Bonito, who's such a stud. He is so good, number 15. We know how great Surtain is, and Brandon Jones, he hasn't quite been the same since the ACL injury, but he's a good football player. John Cooper's been a nice player, edge rusher. They're a nice team. Zach Allen's a good player. They're a nice team. I kind of, I probably should have had them in over the Bungles.
Hey, that's part of the fun of it. I mean, it's not like you didn't think about it. You wrestled.
I did, and that's the one I struggle with. I like Riley Moss.
Right.
Well, I know some teams thought it was a safety, but he's a corner.
Yep.
They're an okay. They overachieved under Sean Payton. I think they get back to reality a little bit. They're probably not going to be as good as I think. But again, we got to get through the draft.
Hey, listen, Adam, if you told me, because of exactly what you said on offense, if you told me that this was going to be the team that made the playoffs that took a step back in 2025, I could be sold on it. Again, I like their defense. I think they'll be very competitive. But, 2 or 3 guys get hurt. You never know. They're just not gifted enough on offense to be really gung-ho on them at this point. And you got to see more from the quarterback and the coach and how that grows. So I totally get it. I absolutely get it. All right. So you have Bengals, Bucks, Vikings, 49ers, 14, 13, 12, 11. I've got 49ers, Bengals, Bucks, Broncos. So now we go to 10. You have who?
The Packers. This team annoys me. I say this every year with them. They should be better than they are. They're not. Something seems to happen to them in the playoffs, or they win a game, then they get handled. They just whatever they. And I know Jordan Love's better than he showed. I know he is. He very streaky. I know people complain they don't have a number one receiver. Watson suffered an ACL injury. He was never a one, but their group together is pretty good. Offensive line's fine. They paying Aaron Banks a lot to play left guard, coming over for the Niners. They're good at tight end. Josh Jacobs is a stud. They got to get Marshawn Lloyd, who really didn't play last season, going. There's a lot of talent on that defense. Honestly, corner's a little shaky. I love Nate Hobbs. Nate Hobbs is a good football player. You can play inside or outside corner.
I like him. Yeah, good nickel, right?
Player. Yep. They signed him over from the Raiders. It's one of these things. It's like they have the roster. They fired the former the former D coordinator. They brought in Jeff Hafley, who's running a 43. Yep. Richard Versace is a great special teams coach. Gutekunst, the GM's does a good job. They're just not. There's something off with this football team. Xavier McKinney's really good. He bounced back with the pack from coming over from the Giants. He's a pretty good player. Good depth on this team overall. They got to get Van Esco in the first round. Has been very, very disappointing so far. They have to figure out how to use him, but they should be better. They're not. They're not. I'm sorry. They're just not. There's something. I don't know if it's LaFleur's problem. Joe Barry, they fired him, the D coordinator, because they underachieved. They were too soft defensively, is kind of what people around the league thought. Halfley runs aggressive 43, but they're just not good enough, and they're not going to be higher than 10 on my list.
All right, I totally appreciate it. They fell into a 3-team group of teams that annoy me. Teams that are good enough to be in the playoffs, but annoy me. So I have the Chargers at 10 because I feel like there's so much more potential with them. But when the best thing you do for your offense is add Najee Harris right now, Mekhi Becton, okay, it's good. We've talked about where is he going to play. Is he going to be a right guard? What do they do with Pipkins? Then they go and bring back Mike Williams. I mean, they need a downfield playmaker, and Mike Williams at this stage of his career, you're just hoping he's healthy enough to play.
Crazy they brought him back.
Yeah. And I am not a Justin Herbert in love stan guy. I like him. I think he's a good quarterback. When he plays in the biggest of the big games, there's just something that doesn't connect. I always joke that nobody loves to throw a 7-yard out route to Will Dissly more than
who's a wide tight end. Yeah, they got my guy Conklin though. They got my guy. I'm telling you, Tyler Conklin. What's that?
That's a good addition. He'll catch 110 balls because Herbert will just throw it to him.
I hope so, because he never got used enough because of the terrible quarterback play they got with the Jets. But they've addressed the offensive line. Mekhi Becton's got to start at right guard. I mean, the deal that was reported, it's not really what he got. It's really a 1-year deal, 1-year structure. Right. They can get out of it easily after 1 year. But, yeah, I agree that Quentin Johnson sort of had some good games. McConkey was great as a rookie.
Yeah, Quentin Johnson is like the microcosm of that team to me. Just so frustrating. Some nights, some games he's got 2 touchdowns, other games not so much.
I'll say this. The coaching is Jesse Minder did a great job. They're not very talented defensively. Yep. Khalil Mack, I don't know how he keeps doing it. Tuli Pelotu, his brother, is now back with the Chiefs, but he's a player. T.R. Tart was a nice signing.
Yep.
We'll see how Dante Jackson does. This Tarheeb still was great last year as a 5th rounder. Derwin James obviously is great, still really good. They need more help on defense.
They have more talent than I'm giving him credit for. There's no doubt about that. But they annoy me, so I couldn't move them higher than 10.
Coaching's great, though. Coaching is great.
Coaching is good. The coaching is very good. They also kind of, I believe, I went back and looked at their schedule. They kind of got fat on playing an schedule. Like their wins last year, the Raiders, the Panthers, Saints, Browns, Titans. They did beat the Bengals earlier in the year, but then they lost to them. I think they beat the Bengals earlier in the year when the Bengals were really struggling. So they beat the Falcons when the Falcons were really toiling. So they didn't have that many good wins. Patriots, Raiders. So we'll see this year. But you're right that they have more talent than I'm giving them credit for, but they're just a team that annoys me. So that was my number 10. Again, your 10 was the Packers. Let's go to your 9. This is interesting.
So this one, I debated whether I'd put them in my top 7, but I kept them in the bottom. They're going to be good. They've got the quarterback. They've been aggressive this offseason, which I was told they were going to be, although I had no idea that it was going to be Debo. But they were going to go after it a little bit. They did. They got a left tackle, the Commandos. Tunsil, I don't know why. I mean, I know the Texans got a lot of help now with draft picks, but so they've got their left tackle. Cosme's come back from the ACL at right guard. That's a problem. But they got Debo to help out. McLaurin, in a way, he's not explosive. He's not a non-route runner, but he'll get open. Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, does a great job. Daniels, again, is a stud. Their offensive line overachieved with good coaching from his name is Bobby Johnson, does a good job. Great scheme from Dan Quinn. They added Kinlaw. I know they overpaid him, but he had a really good year for the Jets. Mm-hmm. They brought back Cleveland Farrell. Frankly, who was one of our favorite players ever in the history of our show. They're really loaded in the cornerback group. I mean, just in the secondary with Quan Martin, Lattimore. He's got to stay healthy. Sainer Stroll was great as a rookie. Igbohagany as a nickel. Boy, no one ever saw that coming because he never played nickel in his career, and he's really good at it. I mean, he's pretty good. It's a good team. Bobby Wagner's back, and Greg Cosell told us he thinks he regressed a little bit last season. That's good. John Bates got paid to be their wide tight end with the Commandos, but overall, this is a good team. They're well coached, good front office. They're not there yet. We're not having this. We're not doing this after the draft yet. I can't put in my top 7 because they have some holes, but it's a good team and a good roster, and I like their vibe right now. I like it.
So I get not being in your top 7 because of, I think as great as Jaden Daniels was, we've seen we saw it with just last year with CJ Stroud and Houston's offense. It took a major step back. They had injuries. They weren't deep enough in certain areas, and it caught up to them. But on talent alone and the moves they made to bring in Tunsil, to bring in Deebo Samuel, it is going to be the coaching staff remains intact. I had them high. I had them in my top 7. So we'll foreshadow to next time. But I couldn't drop them lower than 7. So I did have them there. My 9 team was, and again, this is that theme I told you about. There's 3 teams that really bother me. Were the Texans. I do like the fact that they have a very good defense and added CJ, they added Rankins. That's good. Christian Kirk, okay. Cam Robinson, all right, that'll add. But the offensive line, like you mentioned earlier in the show, totally under construction. You have no idea what they're doing with it. You saw CJ Stroud take a step back because of the offensive line. Tank Dell had a really bad injury again.
I don't think he's going to. By the way, I don't think he's playing this season. Based on the word I got, very good chance he doesn't play.
Yes, I heard that injury was very bad. Yeah. No Diggs. I just don't like the direction that they're headed in at the moment. This is all about right now. So I couldn't have them higher than 9th based on how, and some of their wins last year were freaking terrible, to be honest with you. So they won a really bad division. They won 10 games because they got to play 6 games against the Colts, the Jaguars, and the Titans. So this team, to me, needs a lot of work for me to be convinced. And I'm still putting them at 9, right? So I'm giving them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt there. I love D'Amico and what he's done, but not higher than 9. I couldn't go any higher there.
Right. I love their defense. Oh, my. You're talking about a top 5 defense. They've really –
yes.
And, I mean, they really don't have a weakness. Stingley's phenomenal left corner. Lassiter's on his way to being a good player at right corner.
Mm-hmm.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson, they stole him from the Eagles. I mean, they really did. What a trade that was.
Mm-hmm.
Stud. I mean, this guy's a turnover force machine. Danielle Hunter was a good player. Really was for them. They're a little shaky at D-tackle. Will Anderson's really good. The Alabama linebacker, who was a 5th rounder 2 years ago, has become a player. They're just really good on defense. Nico Collins, you go to their offense, is an absolute superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Stud, no doubt. Joe Mixon was great. Joe Mixon, was great last season.
He really was.
Stroud took a step back because their offensive line was terrible. Now, here's what they're going to do. Cam Robinson will be their starting left tackle this year. Okay, he's on a 1-year deal. That's it. They'll have to address this in the draft. They could play Drew Scruggs, or Patterson at center. Okay, either could play it. Blake Fisher will be the right tackle, so they'll stick with that. Howard will most likely be their left guard. Titus Howard, okay? Could he play left tackle? Yeah, but they signed Cam Robinson. What they have to do is stick with a 5, and that's it. Stop screwing around. Laken Tomlinson, there's a reason why the guy's been on, 5 teams?
Yep.
To back up.
Yeah. Okay? I'm scared of this offense. I really feel for CJ Stroud.
A little bit of question mark.
I wish he had more. I wish he had more around him. You don't want to waste his best years when he's under a cheap contract.
I'm with you. Honestly, I probably should have had the Commanders of the Texans. Again, we're doing this for the draft. The Commanders have some holes.
Yeah.
It's so close between the two, but yeah, I hear you. Texans. It's just, again, if the GM Casario does a better job of addressing the offensive line, they're a top 17. I got them at 8.
Agreed. They have. I would agree with you in that the moves that ensue here, late free agency, the draft, maybe a trade, give the Texans better potential to get back into the top 7 than to go further south. I completely buy that. So that's why you have the Texans at 8. So you have Bengals 14, Bucks 13, Vikings 12, Niners 11, Packers 10, Commanders 9, Texans 8. I had Niners 14, Bengals 13, Bucks 12, Broncos 11, Chargers 10, Texans 9, and my 8 was, again, the last of the annoying teams, the Packers. They didn't really make too many additions other than you mentioned Banks and Hobbs. There's something missing from them. I feel like they have far more boom potential if Jordan Love just plays like 20% like you did 2 years ago in the second half of the year, they could easily be a top 6 team. I mean, they play in a tough division and they won a lot of games. But this team, for whatever reason, something is missing. I don't know what it is, Adam. I think it's the turnovers that they have. Maybe the lack of a true number one receiver for Jordan Love, where they have a bunch of guys that we like but aren't. Nico Collins, for example, which is why you have Texans higher. I get it. But I also really do. I like LaFleur as a play caller. I like their team overall. They have some good players in the front seven. You're right that they got to get Van Ness playing better. But I don't see them as getting any much further worse than what they were last year. I think there's a chance that they can be better. But right now they're kind of like right where they are, 8th best team. And that's where I have them.
Here's why. Okay, here's why. Lack of blue chip players. They have a lot of good players. It's like they're the good player team. They just don't have. They have very few elite players, if any. They're just really good.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean Clark is great. I mean, not great. He's a good player. Okay. Mm-hmm. Is he elite? No. I mean, their roster's good, but it's not good enough. And again, something happens to Matt LaFleur. Once he's a great regular season coach, he's phenomenal, but there's just something off there. So yeah, the Packers are confounding. They're the number one. They're my number one annoying team every year.
I get it. I definitely get it. All right, so that's 14 through 8 for both of us. The next, I'm going to give a little tease, as we say in the business. Not only are we going to do our 7 through 1, but you have a team in the top 7 that made my eyes fall out of my head, okay, and made my jaw drop to the ground. And I can't wait to get into your mind on why you have this team as high as you do, and what you see that I'm not seeing. So it's going to be a really fun discussion, but that will have to wait for the next one. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation.